So file the end of your wire, your rivet wire, nice and flat. Run it inside your bail. And we're going to leave it long so that we can hold it quite easily in our third hand. So flux one piece of hard solder, touching both the bail and the wire. And your neutral flame. I'm just going to brush it back and forth to dry this out. Then I'll push my solder up against the wire. I'll just brush this back. I don't want full heat on the wire. I want more on the base because the base is actually bigger than the wire. I'm only about 25 mil away. So there, don't know whether you could see it or not, but it flowed very nicely. And all the third hand was doing was just holding the wire so that it was vertical. Because I drilled this slightly bigger than the wire because we're going to have to open this to get it out. So quench this, pickle it, and have a look at your solder joint. So if you're happy with it, cut your rivet off fairly close to the bail. File it flat. Be careful and don't mark the bail. So just keep the file on the wire. When you've got it about like that, open it enough to just put it on your piece. I can find you there. And this wants to be in the back. Then you close it again, making sure that the wire goes through the hole. Use your flat round pliers to hold it. Push that up through. Now, at this point, you can either rivet this or solder it. I would say rivet it because that way you stand less of a chance of soldering this top piece to it. So once you've riveted that, you're ready to set the stone. So just hold your piece with the rivet up. Use your goldsmith's hammer or a little riveting hammer. Just work your way around. And as soon as it's spread enough to keep it from coming through the hole, you can stop. You don't have to make it smooth. And pickle it, if you haven't already, to get the oxides off, and then tumble it to make it pretty before we set the stone. So at this point, I'm ready to go in the tumbler. So I'm quite happy with that. Okay, I'm ready to set the stone. And we want to make sure that it sits nicely in the seat. We want to make sure that the claws are only about halfway up the table facets. These are the facets on the side. We don't want the claws to go all the way up on the table. So adjust it now, and I'm going to set it in thermolock, which is a plastic that gets hard, and Then we'll set it. Now when you set this in the thermolock, make sure that it doesn't squeeze up past the point where the culet's going to be. Otherwise it'll be difficult to set the stone. Let this cool to the point where you can't stick your fingernail in it, and then we'll set it. You could also use jet set or lacquer flakes like the old jewelers use. Anything to hold the piece nice and steady while we push the claws over. First thing I'm going to do is put a little piece of tape on the bail to make sure I don't scratch it. And then I'm going to saw through the end. I'll zoom in. So we're going to saw right through the point of the V. Right there. So we're just going to saw to the depth of where the base will be. We don't want to go any farther. And that's so that we can push these over, and as we push it over, it'll close that back up. So just to that depth. Yeah. Now put your stone in. And I'm just going to hold it level with my fingers and push the claw over. If you use a hammer handpiece for this, have it set on your lowest setting, because we don't want to kill it. We want to just gently hammer it in place. After you get the two claws so that they're touching the facets, we'll set the front. So we'll just push these over so they catch the point of the stone. And just keep working until you get the 3 points so that they hold the stone perfectly. Don't break it. So when your stone is nice and secure, you can take your file and just gently smooth off the points. This is a topaz. It's slightly harder than the file. Burnish it just to smooth it off, to smooth the file marks off. So once you're happy with the setting, boil up the kettle, put this in hot water, and take it out, and the plastic will just come off the piece with your fingernail. And you're done. A little bit of extra burnishing work on the points just to clean them up. Finished. So this is what we're making. A basket set teardrop shape pendant.